Most B12 supplements on the shelf are the wrong form, cyanocobalamin, the cheap synthetic version. It's in almost every drugstore bottle and almost every multivitamin. Your body has to convert it to the active form before it can do anything. And for a meaningful slice of the population, that conversion doesn't run efficiently. Here's what the research actually backs. Start with what your body actually uses. Inside your cells, B12 does its real work in two coenzyme forms: methylcobalamin in the cytoplasm, adenosylcobalamin in the mitochondria. The 2016 Hannibal review in Frontiers in Molecular Biosciences walks through the biochemistry. Methylcobalamin runs the methylation cycle, which controls how your body manages homocysteine, neurotransmitter precursors, and DNA repair. Adenosylcobalamin runs energy metabolism in your mitochondria. Cyanocobalamin doesn't do either job directly. Your liver has to chop off the cyanide moiety and rebuild the molecule into one of the active forms before any of that work begins. The 2017 Paul and Brady review in Integrative Medicine compared the forms side by side. Research suggests methylcobalamin is retained at higher tissue levels than cyanocobalamin at the same dose. To be clear about the cyanide thing, the amount released from a supplement dose is trivial. It is not a poisoning risk. The argument for switching forms isn't safety. It's that you're handing your body extra biochemical work to get to a place methylcobalamin starts at. Now the part the supplement industry oversells: the methylation gene variant, MTHFR, a gene that codes for an enzyme in the methylation cycle. Roughly 30 to 40% of the global population carries at least one variant copy. Around 10 to 15% are homozygous, meaning two variant copies. For that subset, methylation capacity is genuinely reduced. Methylated forms may be preferable. The data for the general population is still debated. The honest framing is this: if you're homozygous, methylated forms are a reasonable default. If you don't know your status, methylated forms still aren't a bad call. How common is the deficiency itself? The 2013 Stabler review in the New England Journal of Medicine and the 2009 Allen review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition both estimate roughly 5 to 15% of adults are deficient or borderline. In adults over 60, that climbs above 20%. The drivers are well documented. Atrophic gastritis reduces stomach acid, so you don't cleave B12 off the protein in food. Reduced intrinsic factor means even what you cleave off, your gut can't absorb. And two extremely common medications make this worse: metformin, used by tens of millions of people for type 2 diabetes, and proton pump inhibitors, the long-term acid blockers. The 2016 follow-up of the Diabetes Prevention Program confirmed long-term metformin use significantly raises B12 deficiency risk. Carmel's 2008 review in Blood lays out the same picture for acid blockers and pernicious anemia. Strict vegans and long-term vegetarians also need to pay attention. B12 is essentially absent from plant foods at meaningful levels. Without supplementation, deficiency in this group is a question of when, not if. So the picture so far: the form most people take has to be converted. The conditions and medications that drive deficiency are common and under-recognized. Next, we'll cover the routes that work, the dose that matches the evidence, and the blood test that tells you what your serum number is hiding.
Here's the protocol the research actually backs. Start with the form on the bottle. Look for methylcobalamin. If the label just says vitamin B12, flip it. Most cheap bottles are cyanocobalamin. For most people, that gets converted anyway. For people with a methylation variant, older adults, or anyone with a known absorption issue, methylcobalamin is the safer default because it skips the conversion step. Then the route. 3 real options: oral, sublingual, intramuscular. Sharabi's 2003 trial in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology compared sublingual and oral methylcobalamin head-to-head in adults without a malabsorption disorder.
Serum response was comparable. Thacker and Billa's 2015 editorial reached the same conclusion. Sublingual is not magically more absorbed in a normal absorber at the same dose. The exception matters. If you have pernicious anemia, atrophic gastritis, or post-bariatric surgery, the normal stomach pathway is compromised. Historically, intramuscular injection was the assumed requirement. The 2017 Andrès review in QJM revisited that. Research suggests high-dose oral B12, around 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms per day, can match intramuscular for many older adults, even with impaired absorption. Confirmed pernicious anemia stays usually under a doctor's care. And if you suspect deficiency, get the full panel, not just serum B12. Here's the numbers angle. If you're a healthy adult, around 500 to 1,000 micrograms a day of methylcobalamin is the range most studies cluster around. Over 60, 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms per Andrès. On metformin or a proton pump inhibitor, talk to your prescriber and monitor. If you suspect deficiency, do not just start megadosing, get tested first. Which brings us to the test that actually tells you what's going on. Serum B12 alone misses tissue deficiency. The 2013 Stabler review in the New England Journal of Medicine recommends pairing serum B12 with two other markers, homocysteine, which rises in functional B12 deficiency, and methylmalonic acid, which rises specifically when B12 is low and is not confounded by folate status. That three-marker panel gives you the real picture. Plenty of people walk around with a normal serum B12 and elevated methylmalonic acid. That's the case the standard test misses. A note on the brain piece. Reynolds' 2006 in Lancet Garology and the 2010 VITACOG trial link B12 status to cognitive outcomes. VITACOG in mild cognitive impairment patients showed B vitamin supplementation slowed brain atrophy over 2 years versus placebo. Research links B12 status to brain aging. That is not a claim B12 prevents dementia. It is a reason this nutrient is worth getting right. So, the full picture. Methylcobalamin over cyanocobalamin, especially past 60, or with a suspected methylation issue. Sublingual or oral is fine for normal absorbers. High-dose oral often works even when absorption is impaired. Confirmed pernicious anemia stays under a doctor's care. And if you suspect deficiency, get the full panel, not just serum B12. If you want the magnesium version of this same lesson, the form most people get wrong and the form that actually works, check out our video on the magnesium most people are getting wrong. The link is in the description below. This is research, not medical advice. Talk to your doctor before changing anything.